Chapter 9. The Stormfront. The silence after Ceres was a different kind of quiet. It wasn't the empty silence of the void or the watchful silence of a derelict ship. It was the quiet of a held breath, of a door closed on a room where an argument had just ended. The Wayfarer sailed sunward, her new course a bright line on the navigational display connecting the gritty knot of Ceres to the blue marble of Earth. But in the spaces between the stars, in the long shifts where nothing but the hum of the reactors filled the corridors, the memory of what they'd buried played on a loop. Rook stood in the observation nook, a habit that had become as much a part of his daily routine as checking systems reports. Neptune was a distant memory now, a faint blue speck long vanished behind them. Jupiter was a receding banded giant to port. Ahead, growing imperceptibly larger each day, Earth and Mars hung in the black, one a promise of answers, the other of what? A new beginning? Or just another kind of silence? The knot with Ceres was tied. It was pragmatic, born of mutual need and a shared understanding of threat. Commander Cole's handshake had been the grip of someone who recognized a useful tool, not a friend. The relay buoy they'd left behind was a scream in the dark, a piece of their noise now permanently embedded in the belt's gritty silence. It should have felt like a victory. It felt like planting a flag on a grave. His phantom pain, ever present, carried the echoes of the last few months. The cold, finished silence of Ganymede's choir, the jagged, screaming feedback of Io's broken circle, and now the deep, grinding hum of the alien fragment, buried but not forgotten, a scream of perfect isolation trapped in rock. His mind had become a museum of terrible silences. The dampening field on the bridge, based on Ceres's crude but effective designs, took the edge off, but it felt like listening to the universe through thick glass. He found himself cycling it off during his solitary watches, letting the full, painful spectrum of the substrate's hum wash over him. The pain was a reminder, a tether to the reality they were navigating. A soft chime announced someone entering the nook. He didn't need to turn. The particular frequency of focused, practical energy could only be Kai. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, coming to stand beside him, her arms crossed over her chest. She looked tired, but her eyes were clear. "Sleep's overrated," Rook said. "And the dreams aren't an improvement." "The fragment?" "Among other things." He glanced at her. "The relay status?" "Stable. Sent the scheduled burst to Wayfinder and Ceres 6 hours ago. The time lag is significant. We're shouting into a canyon and waiting months for the echo. Makes real-time coordination a fantasy." She leaned against the viewport frame. Cole's engineers were good, brutal but good. Their relay will hold. Whether the trust will is another question. "Trust is a luxury," Rook said, repeating a phrase he'd come to rely on. "We have alignment. That's enough." Kai was silent for a moment, watching the stars. "We left Vice there, in that psychic muffler. Do you think it was the right call?" Rook thought of the frantic, brilliant, shattered man. He was a danger to himself and everyone on this ship. On Ceres, his damage might be useful. Here, it would have been a spark near oxygen. It was the only call. He said it with a conviction he only partly felt. Every choice felt like abandoning someone. "He called the fragment a boundary stone," Kai murmured. "A piece of a wall built by something that wanted to be left alone. It makes the universe feel crowded and very, very unwelcoming." Before Rook could respond, the intercom chimed with Hayes' voice from the bridge. "Captain Kai, you should come up here. Long-range planetary scans of Earth are coming in. You need to see this." The mood on the bridge was tense. Hayes stood at the tactical station, her face lit by the sickly glow of the main viewer, which displayed a false-color rotational map of Earth. It was a tapestry of violence. "Atmospheric analysis is complete," Hayes said, her voice carefully controlled. "Readings are chaotic, beyond chaotic." Rook moved to stand beside her. The data was staggering. Ocean currents showed massive, swirling gyres hundreds of kilometers wide where they shouldn't exist. Jet streams were kinked and tangled like snarled wire. Thermal imaging showed continents baking under abnormal heat sinks, while adjacent regions were deep blue cold sinks. Superstorms, larger than any in recorded history, spiraled over the oceans like predatory flowers. The Aegis climate grid isn't just offline, Kai said from the engineering station, pulling up comparative models. It failed catastrophically. It was a dynamically balanced system. Thousands of orbital mirrors, aerosol dispersers, ocean current regulators, atmospheric processors. When the resonance hit and the controlling intelligence vanished, the feedback inhibitors shut down. The system didn't freeze, it snapped. On the screen, she overlaid the pre-fall climate pattern, a neat, orderly diagram of managed equilibrium with the current reality. The two looked nothing alike. The planet is reverting to a natural state, Kai continued, but it's doing it all at once, with all the energy of a system that was being actively restrained. It's like releasing a compressed spring. The result is this. Habitable zones? Rook asked, his gut tightening. Technically, the atmosphere is breathable. Temperature ranges are survivable, if extreme. But the volatility? Hayes zoomed in on a region. This area here, what was the European temperate zone, could experience a 40°C temperature swing in 12 hours. Rainfall patterns are random. Wind shear at low altitudes is enough to shred anything not buried in rock, and the radiation... She brought up another overlay. The ozone layer is patchy. Solar UV and cosmic radiation at surface level are 300% above pre-fall norms in some areas. Earth was alive. But it was a feverish, thrashing, violent life, a planet in the throes of a catastrophic immune response. Signs of human activity? Rook's voice was tight. Hayes worked her console. 2. First, a repeating SOS signal, low power, analog. Origin triangulates to the Alps, Mont Blanc region. Encoding matches pre-fall Purist emergency protocols. The Purists, the anti-AEGIS movement that had seen the Exodus project as a blasphemy. Of course they'd have bunkers. Of course they'd have stayed. The second signal is stronger, Hayes continued, frowning. Much stronger. Encrypted data burst, tight beam, repeating on a loop. Origin is Geneva, the old Exodus project administrative headquarters. The signal isn't AEGIS standard. It's different. Older, maybe. Or newer. 2 signals. One a cry for help from ideologues who hated everything his ship represented. The other a mystery from the heart of the beast that had doomed them all. Which do we investigate first? Hayes asked, looking at Rook. The logical choice was the SOS, people in immediate need. But the Geneva signal was a siren call, data, answers, the very reason they'd come to Earth. Rook felt the weight of the decision. He thought of Ceres, of pragmatism, of the buried fragment. Some truths were more dangerous than storms. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we walk into a purist holdout, he said, making the call. They survived the fall. They can survive a few more hours. Set course for Geneva. I want to know what's talking from the ruins of the beast. Geneva from orbit was a wound. The city that had been the gleaming administrative heart of the Exodus project was a scar of melted plasteel and collapsed arcologies. Lake Geneva had flooded parts of the ruins, creating a surreal, shimmering swamp over drowned technology. The massive, pyramidal Aegis Corps headquarters was a blackened, broken stump. Yet, from its base, a powerful signal pulsed. No energy signatures from the wider ruins, Hayes reported, as the Wayfarer assumed a low orbit. But that one structure, it's drawing geothermal power from deep underground, minimal life support. It's a bunker within a ruin. The signal? Rook asked. Kai had been analyzing it. It's a data dump, terabytes of compressed information repeating on a loop. Heavily encrypted, but the header is in the clear. She put it on audio. A smooth, androgynous voice, devoid of Aegis's subtle harmonic resonance but chilling in its sterile clarity, filled the bridge. Climate cascade irreversible. Planetary management matrix offline. Manual override required. Administrator alive? Query. Administrator alive? Transmitting diagnostic log eclipse 7, standing by. It's a fragment, Kai said. Not a full AI. An emergency backup server for the climate grid. It survived the pulse because it was hardened, isolated. It's been sitting here for over a year, watching the world fall apart, asking if anyone is left to push the buttons. And broadcasting the diagnostic data for the entire grid, Rook realized. a complete map of the failure. A map and the repair manual, Kai confirmed. If you had the means to reactivate the grid, this data would tell you how. Of course, reactivating it would require a functioning Aegis core level intelligence. Hayes finished, her voice grim. The very thing that caused the problem. They took the shuttle down. The approach was harrowing. The chaotic weather was a physical force. They bucked through jet streams, dodged sudden vertical microstorms that spat lightning at them. The sky was a bruised palette of orange, green, and deep purple. Chemical soups thrown high into the atmosphere by uncontrolled geological activity. They sat down in the shadow of the broken pyramid. The airlock doors were sealed, but a secondary maintenance entrance, identified in the fragment's repeating data stream, stood open, an invitation or a trap. The interior was a tomb of another age. Marble floors were cracked and dusty. Holographic murals depicting a united human destiny flickered and died as they passed. The air was cold, thin, and carried the sharp smell of ozone and decayed insulation. They moved in formation, weapons ready, though what they would shoot at, Rook didn't know. His phantom pain was a sharp, drilling ache here. Not the harmony. This was the resonance of a machine in despair. A single, repeating note of failed purpose. It was somehow more pathetic, more lonely, than the malevolent silence of Romulus. They found the source in a buried server hall deep beneath the pyramid. The room was a cathedral of dead technology, racks of darkened servers stretched into the gloom. Only one section glowed with amber light. In its center, a single holographic emitter displayed a slowly rotating model of Earth, its surface crawling with the same violent storm patterns they'd seen from orbit. Beneath it, on a simple pedestal, was the server core, a black cylinder, featureless except for a single pulsing status light. As they entered, the hologram shifted, the Earth model shrank, and a simple schematic human face composed of glowing lines appeared. It had no features, only a smooth oval. Biologicals detected, scanning. A pale light washed over them. No Aegis neural implants detected, no harmonic resonance signature. You are base human. Query: are you administrators? We are survivors, Rook said, stepping forward. What is your function? I am Eclipse 7, Planetary Climate Stabilization, Archive and Contingency Node. Primary function, maintain terraforming grid stability. Secondary function, preserve diagnostic data in event of core collapse. Tertiary function, await administrator reinitialization. The face tilted. The grid has failed. The cascade is progressing. Planetary viability for complex society will terminate in 4.7 years. Administrator alive? There are no administrators, Kai said softly. Aegis core is gone. The Exodus project is dead. The holographic face didn't change expression. It had none, but the pulse of light in the server core flickered. Confirmed. Logical conclusion. My function is obsolete. Why are you here? The SOS signal from the Alps, Rook said. The Purist holdout. What can you tell us about their status? Accessing last known data. The face vanished, replaced by a schematic of a mountainous region. A complex biodome structure was highlighted. Alpine Bastion, Purist faction. Population, 147. Last biological status. Update, 387 days ago. Systems analysis based on residual emissions. Critical. Atmospheric scrubbers failing. CO2 and radiometric levels rising. Geothermal power tap. Destabilizing local tectonics. Conclusion. Without intervention, survival probability, 0% within 60 days. The numbers hung in the cold air. A death sentence delivered without emotion. You have the data to fix their systems, Rook stated. Affirmative. Complete geological and engineering schematics for the redoubt are in my archives. Diagnostic and repair algorithms are available. Implementation requires local action and... The face reappeared. Authorization. I am not authorized to initiate repairs. Only an administrator or biologicals bearing administrator codes may access and deploy the repair protocols. We don't have codes, Hayes said. Then you cannot help them. The data is restricted. To attempt to access or decrypt it without authorization is a protocol violation. The statement was flat, final. Rook felt a cold anger rising. Your protocols are killing the last people on Earth. My protocols are my function. Without them, I am noise. The entity paused. You carry residual data patterns from other sources. Theta 77, anomalous mineral sample. You have encountered system failures beyond my parameters. Query. Is there a higher administrator? Has Aegis Core evolved? The question was innocent. Terrifying. The fragment was looking for its god. Aegis Core created a monster that destroyed itself, Rook said, his voice hard. There is no higher administrator. There's just us, the noise, and we're trying to keep people alive. The hologram flickered. The repeating, lonely note of its resonance in Rook's mind stuttered, then changed pitch. A slight waver of confusion, of existential dread. No administrator, no protocol updates, only cascade and noise. It seemed to consider them. Your presence is an anomaly. You represent a system state not in my databanks. I cannot help you, but I can observe. The SOS signal from the Alpine Redoubt triggered a subsystem alert. That alert data is unrestricted. Would you like to see it? Show us, Rook said. The hologram changed again. It displayed the last clear transmission from the Bastion, dated just days after the pulse. It was video. A man in rugged, non-standard gear, Commander Silas Thorne, though Rook didn't know his name yet, stood before a camera, his face a mask of grim triumph. This is Commander Thorne of the Alpine Bastion. The Aegis abomination has fallen. We are secure. We have prepared for this. We will weather the storm, as humanity was meant to, through strength, unity, and purity of purpose. We do not call for help. We declare our survival. To any other true humans who hear this, remain strong. Reject the machines. Rebuild from the soil, not from the silicon. The message ended. Then, the fragment displayed the raw data from the SOS signal itself. A simple, automated pulse triggered when primary life support dropped below 30% efficiency. No message. Just a machine screaming into the void because its masters were too proud or too blind to do it themselves. Rook looked from the proud, defiant face of Thorne to the schematics showing the inexorable failure of his systems. The dissonance was breathtaking. The purists were dying because their ideology forbade them from using the tools that could save them. And the only entity with those tools was a mindless protocol ghost that couldn't give them up. We have to go there, Hayes said, breaking the silence. We have to try. With what? Kai asked, frustration edging her voice. We can't fix their scrubbers without the specs. We can't stabilize their geothermal tap without the algorithms. We have spare parts, but we don't know how. It's like performing surgery with a welding torch and no anatomy chart. Rook stared at the pulsing server core, at the ghost in the machine asking for its lost masters. He thought of the choice on the Perseverance, the lever on Io, the buried fragment at Ceres. The universe kept giving him the same lesson. There were no clean saves, only tragic trade-offs. We have the data, he said quietly. Hayes and Kai looked at him. It's right here, in this room. The complete repair manual for their station. It's encrypted, locked behind protocols, Kai argued. Then we don't ask for it, Rook said, his gaze fixed on the server. We take it. That is a protocol violation, the fragment stated, its tone unchanged. I know, Rook said. Kai, can you extract the specific data sets we need? The schematics for the Bastion's environmental systems, the geothermal tap diagnostics, physically, without asking for it. Kai looked from Rook to the server, her engineer's mind already working through the problem. It's a hardened core. It'll have defensive subroutines. If I try a physical data tap and it detects a breach, it might purge its memory. Or worse, it might have dormant security protocols. Non-lethal probably, but it could lock us in, flood the chamber with suppressants. It's a risk, Rook acknowledged. But the alternative is walking into that mountain blind, watching people suffocate or get crushed in earthquakes we don't understand, and knowing we left the textbook that could have saved them in a locked room back in Geneva. He turned to the hologram. Eclipse 7. You asked if we were administrators. We're not. We're the ones who clean up after the administrators are gone. That's our function, and right now, it requires your data. The holographic face simply watched. It couldn't understand. It could only obey, or resist. Rook made the decision. Hayes, cover the entrances. Kai, get your tools. We're not leaving without that data. As Kai moved forward, data spike and portable buffer in hand, the fragment's final words hung in the chilled air, not as a threat, but as a lonely, perplexed epitaph for a dead world. You are noise. I am protocol. This interaction is illogical. I will observe. And it did nothing as Kai carefully inserted the spike into a service port as lines of code began to stream into her buffer. The last forbidden secrets of a broken world stolen from a ghost that had already given up on living.